Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's live Q&A. So hello and welcome. I'm Roger here from What's on Disney Plus, and a big thank you and welcome to everyone that's joining us live or on demand. So this show I do every single week, and I get questions from our patrons and our YouTube channel members. So they've been able to submit questions in advance, but also YouTube channel members can also join in live. And so we've got a few of them already here in the live chat. So you can see we've got Keenan, we've got Bubba Trolling, we've also got Khalid, Leah. So a big hello to all of you. And what I tend to do is jump a little bit between the live ones and the ones that they've sent in. Also, if you are watching and you are not a member, you can become a member from as little as $2 a month, and then you can join in, or you can send in the super chat function. Do both. I'm quite happy with that. It really makes a massive difference. Over the last year or so, there's been some major changes at Google, and your support really makes so much difference. You know, being a member, just visiting the website, all of this kind of stuff really makes a big difference. A big thank you to everyone that does so. Really couldn't do this without you guys. But let's start off. We've got things to kind of jump into. Keenan says, glad things are back to normal. Yeah. So I will say now, things are back to normal this week. Next week, there won't be a live Q&A. I will be doing a pre-recorded one. That is because I'm going to be in London. I'm going to be watching the NFL international game between the New Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hopefully the Jaguars do better than they did today in London because they sucked. But so I'll be going to my first big NFL game, so I'm looking forward to watching it. But unfortunately, it means I'll be driving when the game's over, and it's a couple hours back. So Patreon and YouTube channel members, keep a lookout during the week. I'll put your post up, and then I'll record that on Saturday for everyone to be able to watch at the normal time. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I've had the ticket booked for like 6-7 months. So yeah, looking forward to doing it. I did see a college football game about 20 years ago while I was in the US, but this will be my first live NFL game. So I'm looking forward to watching it. Right, let's start off. So Keenan asked, despite when Disney decides to release theatrical releases of Disney Plus and less Disney Plus originals, how vital is home media sales for Disney? So I think this is kind of like the main one at the top, because I have to pick like one question to be like the lead. And the simple truth is home video sales. Now this, when I say home video, I'm including physical and digital. So this is DVD, Blu-ray, 4K Blu-ray, and digital. So it is still vitally important. The business is still worth billions of dollars to the studios. They are still making a lot of money of it. Deadpool and Wolverine was recently the biggest digital release. Sales are still doing well. People are still renting them, and numbers are going up every single year. Digital sales and digital rentals continue to increase. Now, they are nowhere near the level that it used to be in the days of DVD and Blu-ray. Those days are long gone. They used to be able to sell billions of discs every year, and it was a very profitable business. But things have moved on. Things have changed. So I've actually got a little bit of a slide that I wanted to show up here. Here's me doing a little bit of information. So this here comes from the entertainment group. So you can see here the sort of sales of Blu-ray, also digitals, and VHS. So you can see here now that digital purchases and rentals have been above DVD since 2018. So it's been nearly 6 years since digital took over physical. And that is the thing that it had to continue to rise. And then it had a massive drop off as the streaming subscriptions grew more and more. You can see there has been a tail off. Obviously, this data is from 2022. Apparently, it did rise in 2023. So that would be a little bit of an uptick. But we've also continued to see DVD and Blu-ray sales just plummet year on year on year. And this pretty much was from like 2010 was we start seeing a big decline, but even from 2007, 2007, a big drop, and it just dropped year on year. And obviously VHS tapes as well, they kind of started petering off. It really, if you look at the chart here, you can see that it drops off right when DVD sales pick up, and you can also kind of see how all the other ones kind of went down. But look at that yellow line going up for streaming subscriptions of how much money they are making from streaming over DVD and Blu-ray. And that is the key thing here. Streaming subscriptions continue to grow, and look how much higher it is than there. That is a massive amount. This is why um, you know, streaming is so important because it has become the backbone for the streaming services. They're getting this money coming in and it continues to grow. However, it is still very different to the home video market, but putting movies out in digital first is making them more money. And Disney seems to have slid into this new routine. We've seen it this year where a movie comes out in cinemas, then it gets put out on digital, usually for a month before it hits like Disney Plus. And also, it usually arrives on Disney Plus about the same time as DVD Blu ray. I think they're almost looking at those two audiences as very different. And therefore, by then, that's kind of a cool thing. Windows have always been a big part of making money. You know, they used to make money at different stages along the way because it's not just about the box office. And way too many people get caught up in the whole thing of how much a movie makes at the cinema in the first couple of weeks and its overall box office numbers. That is just a tiny, tiny part of the pie because it then makes money on digital. It then makes money on rentals. They then license it out to airlines, to other locations, hotels. They also put it out on them on different channels can air it. HBO, all these kind of different channels, BBC, etc. They're all jumping in on it. And that is definitely an era of something, you know, we've seen this continuing to make money. There's no doubt about it that DVDs and Blu-rays have drastically reduced. There's still a lot of people that love having physical media. And I've seen so many comments whenever time there's something removed from Disney Plus, people jumping in talking about how physical media is king. And I honestly, as I am a collector, I have way too much junk hanging around here. I've got boxes and boxes of Blu-rays and DVDs. I used to have probably over 1,000, 2,000 movies on DVD. I used to have like bookshelves full of VHS. I had hundreds of them. I have been a movie collector since I can go back to like probably when I was like 11 or 12. Might have been to do with the fact that my uncle owned a video shop, but nevertheless, I have always kind of enjoyed that media. But over the years, I've kind of dropped off having physical media. I haven't really brought any for a long time. The network's changed. I think for me personally, spending a few years where I wasn't living, we're basically living with my in-laws while we were saving to buy a house, and I was literally living in, you know, we only had a small room, couldn't have everything. Everything had to go into storage, and realized after 3 years that I didn't actually need all this stuff. It was that was the kind of the click point, really, of just kind of thinking, I don't really need all this stuff. And moving every like year while we were renting and just like moving these boxes, and some of them I got to the point where I wasn't even unboxing them because I was just fed up of moving them. And that was kind of my personal thing with physical. But there's still a market for it. I still think with physical media that there is definitely a thing that, you know, I think it's going to be a niche product. I think it's going to be a bit like vinyl, where people will collect movies and they'll do special editions. The hardcore collectors are going to want to buy this stuff. I still think there's a market for it. And I still think that this is something that we're going to continue to see. I don't personally buy stuff, but I do at least understand why people buy physical. And I do think there is a need for it. And I think they should do it. The only thing that I always do laugh at the fact of when everyone does shout about all the removals is usually most of these removals aren't even out on physical. So therefore the entire concept that, you know, if you want to watch the Willow series or, you know, the Cheaper Dog by the Dozen movie, they hadn't even released them on physical. So therefore it doesn't really work. You know, there's a little bit of a difference in that process. But I definitely feel like physical is very important. But digital is also important. And I think we're starting to see now Disney Plus doesn't get its movies straight away. There's still sometimes a little bit of like crossover, I think, with like Searchlight Pictures films tend to arrive much quicker. But again, the budgets are much smaller, so they don't need to do it. Personally, I would love for Disney to either, I don't think they ever will, but usually we can start seeing patterns evolve over time. And we've seen over the last few years, they keep trying out different strategies and seeing what works and what doesn't. And generally, we have been seeing a big trend with most of the movies. They go to cinemas for at least 2 to 3 months, then they go to digital for about a month, and then they come with about Disney Plus. A lot of people, and I think that's kind of something that we just need to get used to. Universal tend to rush movies to digital after like 3 weeks. They really rushed them there. They're doing really well, apparently, for them. But Universal's are kind of a little bit different to Disney. I think 4 to 5 months for Disney Plus. I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's good enough for them to kind of get through the different windows. So if you've had it come out on, I think of like Disney Plus almost like DVD. That's kind of the same kind of territory. We pay a monthly subscription and we get access to the movies. And I think that's something just to be aware of. Beginning at some of the questions and comments about this particular topic. Khaled says, to answer the question of the headline, home video business isn't that important to Disney, mainly because they exited from house physical media and outsourced it to Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. So this is definitely it with regards to physical media. They have outsourced it. In some countries, they've even stopped selling it. The simple truth is, it's like now you go to most shops and most supermarkets and you don't tend to find a big Blu-ray or DVD selection anymore. I remember when I was at college, it's like 25 years ago, every lunchtime I used to go into the city where we were at university, and I would go from shop to shop to shop, and it would just be like, you go through Virgin and HMV, and there'd be MVC and Woolworths. It had all these like shops full of discs, full of them, and yeah, they've all gone. All those shops pretty much, they don't exist the same way because people just don't buy the physical media. Let's see what other ones we've got on here. Keenan says, I wish they still had VHS and Laserdisc. I grew up with VHS, but not Laserdisc because I wasn't born till after they stopped selling Laserdisc. Laserdiscs were one that I remember wanting to buy because I was really big into buying VHSs when they came out, but they were very expensive, and they were I basically could afford with my part-time job at school where I worked at weekends, where I could basically buy 2 or 3 videos a week. And that's literally, I used to spend all my money on at Blockbuster buying secondhand movie rent. That's where I quickly learned that I could buy secondhand VHS from Blockbuster at a much cheaper price than buying them brand new from stores. And yeah, I just remember that whole thing. But I also kind of worked out with my cousin had worked out that if we wired up a Betamax machine, you could actually record them. As I was about 14 at the time, so it was definitely that kind of thing of, we worked out a way, but using Betamax. So Laserdiscs were pretty cool. My cousin also had a Laserdisc thing. He had a few, but it was really when DVDs took off that I was right at that age. I think it was about 16, 17 when that happened. So I think that was the right time for me. And just Laserdiscs, the quality compared to DVD. I also had HD DVDs on my Xbox 360. I bought the little device and had that on there and was buying movies on both formats for a bit. So I think that is the other big issue for me with physical media. I think you've got a lot of folks now that, that they've been around with like Blu-ray and DVD and stuff for so long. I am that generation above where it's like I have brought Star Wars on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. And I've also seen it out on, they didn't do it, but I've also gone through, like you say, Laserdisc and Betamax and all these different formats. And the same thing with music as well. And I think that's probably why I'm a lot less like, I've had it with this kind of stuff. Right, let's see what else we've got. So I'm just going to roll through here and let's do some live questions. So Aaliyah's not so she's been wondering, her friend made a notice to me. She said, finally Disney is marketing away from Hulu as a standalone app. I have the Google Chrome on my television, and when I logged in, it's not promoting Abbott Elementary, but it said it's watch it on Disney Plus, not Hulu. That's interesting. It's interesting that I do wonder what's going on with this. That's definitely going to be something that's going to be interesting to see. And I think they're going to announce it that they've done a deal next month when they do the quarterly. Kenny says, hopefully NBC Universal won't be involved with WWE and just focus on SmackDown. I think they have to. And this is a response to my Netflix question. Every single WWE show in the UK will be on Netflix. My new Raw. Yeah, so basically here in the UK, the whole like WWE network is closing, and it will all go to Netflix. yeah, we're getting everything on Netflix, which is great. So that's going to save me $10 a month. So that'll be quite nice. Bob Tronic says, "Do you think that Disney will make a profit? Not. Do you think that Disney will take in profit? So I mean, definitely they are making profit. I definitely think the streaming division is. I mean, they're pretty much borderline already. I think they will be. The big key thing really is the money they're making from streaming is going up. The price rises. They're probably going to have a nice boost from the password crackdown. They're also going to have a nice boost with teaming up with, all these different cable companies. That's going to help boost things up. But also, just making less content. I mean, if you spend a few billion less on making original content, that suddenly does help your bottom line on that. Ricardo says, it's been a couple of days since Disney folded 20th Television and ABC together. Do you think the ABC legacy content would appear with the 20th Television logo instead? I don't think they'll go back and change the logos on anything. They haven't really even done that for like Fox. I think they'll just leave it as it is. I don't think there'll be any major change in that. I think what you might start seeing, maybe not on this season, but maybe like at the end of like Grey's Anatomy, it might just say, you might get the yeah, at the end, maybe. I don't know. They might want to start pushing that as the brand. I think as far as that, I think that's probably about as far as it. I don't think they'll go back and rebrand anything at all. Keenan says, HD DVD only lasted 2 years. Yeah, see, I remember there was a whole thing of like which format was going to take off, and I had a few HD DVDs and I had Blu-rays because I had the PlayStation 3, which was the way of getting everyone into Blu-ray, and I just brought this device. And so the good thing is, at least with the HD DVD discs, is that they still had the DVD with them as well. So it never felt quite as bad because you kind of had that dual-edged approach that you could kind of, you were edging your bets on it, which was definitely a thing. Do you think they'll make as much profit as Netflix? I don't think they're going to make as much profit as Netflix in terms of their streaming service. I don't think as well that their businesses are very, very different. And I think sometimes we need to look at, like, Netflix has a certain model where all it is selling your subscription, and that is all it is. That's all they really make their money from, is from one particular revenue source, and that is their core focus. Whereas if you look at Disney, they have got money coming in from digital, from home video, from theatrical releases, from licensing. They've also got linear television. They've got international deals. So they are getting money in from different ways. And I think, and obviously Disney Plus and Hulu is a big proportion of it. And that's probably just going to continue to grow as the linear drops off. But Disney's aren't getting money from just one source. And I will say, actually, that this is a very... Disney's and the other studios, they've at least got a system in place where if one thing doesn't work or one thing drops off, they are still making money from other eras. Netflix has kind of got everything in, all their eggs in one basket. If people started having enough of Netflix and started realizing that they don't like the shows that are on there, or there's not enough good stuff on there, people could flick from Netflix very easily. You're hearing it more and more of people are pulling away from Netflix. And yeah, I think there is definitely that thing of, Netflix, they're definitely getting a very bad reputation for canceling stuff. Ricardo says, you think Deadpool and Wolverine will hit Disney Plus? The streaming will make the official 1 and 2 in the MCU timeline, as maybe the Fox movies. No, Deadpool 1 and 2 are not on the official MCU timeline, because again, they take place in the multiverse. So those take place in other universes. So therefore, it's really only Deadpool and Wolverine where they get to, and I think that's something that we just need to be aware of, that it's not technically. I think don't they even have just like a multiverse section? They'll just be in there. So Sina says, do you think Disney will have more profit than Netflix? I think they probably will do, because they're getting money from other areas and stuff. Kayla says, if anything, shows produced under the ABC signature back will be moved up to 20th television, similar to how Classic Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures are listed as 20th. That might be a good thing for them to do, is they can really kind of then really push this 20th television and 20th century as the big general entertainment brand. I'm surprised they haven't really done that already, because they spent a lot of money buying Fox. It would make sense for them to do something with that 20th century logo brand. And I think if you're merging these things all into it, it would then make sense. It'd be easier as well with less hubs. And I think ABC News Studio, that can still kind of stay as it is. But yeah, I think you might be right on that one. Kayla says, what are your thoughts on the speaker who said that the big four, which include Netflix, Prime Video, and Disney Plus, but we're surprised at Max since it's in less countries? I think the thing with Max is at least they are launching in more countries, and Warner Brothers Discovery is still very much in the entertainment zone, and that is where they make their money. That's still their core business. I don't know. I think I was surprised that Comcast wasn't in there, but listening to CEO Brian on this call the other day, talking about how selling internet is now their main way of selling stuff, and I don't think they are that bothered about being a studio in the same way. It's just an additional revenue source and stuff. Who knows? They might even. I think we are going to see a little bit more consolidation, but whether or not Warner Brothers gets brought out by Comcast, or I don't know if they'll get allowed, but I don't know. I think we're going to see a lot of change and stuff. Keenan says, yeah, Max was the fastest streaming service to make a profit. That's because the big thing with Max is they never started low. They started high. They started at a really high price point. They never did the cheap discount, but also it was bundled in with HBO subscribers, so it was automatically kind of at a big boost in price. And yeah, I think that was a big thing. Right, let's jump into some other questions. Basil said, with the live action remake of Lilo and Stitch coming in May, could we see a teaser trailer soon? Personally, I feel it's a bit early. I think they should almost wait, but they might want to do something maybe with the Lion King movie or Moana, try and kind of get a little bit of a buzz around that one. There is the upcoming D23 event in Brazil in November. So maybe that might be a good time to show something off, and then they can put it out everywhere. But yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if there was a little teaser trailer, maybe with Moana or The Lion King 2, kind of get people excited for it. Maybe even if it's just a 30-second clip or something like that. Don't know, but I'm in that mindset where, to me, a movie for May, I don't think we really need to worry too much about it just yet. Kenneth says, what are your thoughts on Disney rebranded the curated playlists or streams? What other improvements would you suggest? I do think the streams brand is better than curated playlists. I think that was a bit of a messy wording. Didn't really make a lot of sense. It didn't really roll off the tongue. I don't think people necessarily. They're definitely trying to stay away from the term channel. That definitely seems to be something that they want to move away from. I think it was a little bit of a disappointment that the streams didn't go out to all subscribers like they did with them. I would like to see that. I also think just more of them. I think having only like 6 feels very light. The fact that they're not international, that they're still very much feels like it's not quite ready yet for everybody. Because I don't really see how some of these ones could not be international. I don't know. It doesn't, and also just to have more of them. But yeah, it does feel like a early beta version, and it hasn't really been fully fleshed out yet. So other improvements, more channels, better placement on Disney Plus, but also make it international. Those would be the 2 kind of things. And also, yeah, make them available to everybody. Connor says, do you think the DirecTV Dish merger will lead to more mergers and acquisitions in the US pay TV? Once Comcast is out of Hulu, I could see Disney selling its live TV business to YouTube. Hulu Live TV is a very interesting product because Disney obviously like doing it. I do wonder if they're going to get into trouble with there's been obviously some of the issues they've had with Fubo TV about the fact that them owning a streaming service like Hulu Live TV and being there could be a conflict of interest. How many subscribers does it have? It doesn't seem to be able to grow much beyond 4 million. It doesn't seem to be growing a huge amount. There's not a The whole industry is just like there's too many of them, and none of them are big enough because there's less and less people doing it. It's not a product that they can use in other countries. Um, to me, Hulu Live TV just feels like a stopgap, a band-aid for a problem that as people moving away from it. Do they need I Could they sell Hulu Live TV? They could sell it. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because um it's again, YouTube TV is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so they might not want to feed into that one. Maybe even, I don't know. It does feel like, for me, Hulu Live TV just doesn't quite seem right. Let's do a poll on that, shall we? Let's do a poll. So I asked you earlier, for home releases, do you buy physical, digital, or rent, or wait for Disney Plus? 55% of you wait for Disney Plus. 35% of you buy physical. That doesn't really surprise me. So let's see. Let's do a poll. So, do you think Disney will sell Hulu Plus Live TV? Yes or no? Yeah, so I don't know. I think I don't know. I think I could see it for it. Kenneth says isn't a done deal, but it's a proposal since satellite television is losing revenue. As for Hulu Live TV, I could see its operating as being sold to Verizon. I think there's definitely this kind of weird thing of like, in some ways, of you are seeing there's too many platforms, there's not enough customers, and they are not, they are having problems. This whole thing of some of the legislation and stuff in the US of some, I think, there might be merger issues of going, well, we don't like this idea. But I think there's some of the senators and stuff that might be in some ways still thinking of the past, where, it's like when we talk about the, consolidation of these big companies, and it's like, but now Netflix, Amazon, and Apple are now major studios. They've kind of replaced some of the other ones. Keenan says, I heard DirecTV is getting a fast streaming service. Yeah, they're kind of launching it. They're all trying to get a piece of the pie. There's all been this explosion in these fast services. People have realized that people won't subscribe to too many of them, and things like Tubi and Roku and these ones are all kind of launching. The trouble is, a lot of this stuff is being built on the backbone of other studios' content. Now, at the minute, they are willing to get that money from licensing to fill the gap in, but they could easily start pulling the plug on this stuff. And I think that's something that they definitely need to be more aware of. Is that that is definitely something I think that they definitely need to be aware of, that these fast services, I think I don't think they're not all going to survive. There's not enough revenue. There's not enough viewers, and there is a market for it at the minute. But if you started seeing, Disney Plus and Max and Netflix start offering their own fast services, they are going to just, that's then, if all those, and Max, if they all start doing their own thing, they're not going to want, you're going to see what's available on Tubi drastically cutting back. Ricardo thought the other day, what if Disney rebrands as Hulu, Disney Plus Hulu, merging both services, predominantly the Hulu design? I think there's a couple of things which I definitely think Disney are going to be trying to utilize that Hulu brand on Disney Plus. They're going to need to do that to get Americans and stuff used to the idea that stuff's there. And then they can slowly move away from it in the future if they need to. I don't think having Disney Plus Hulu, I don't think as well. Hulu is a brand that they acquired. They didn't come up with it. Now, Pixar and Marvel and Star Wars and 20th Century are not their brands. They picked them up as well. Disney's been doing this for a while, so they could do it. But the problem with Hulu is what is Hulu? What does it actually mean? It's it's a streaming service. Yeah. Well, if that streaming service doesn't exist anymore, it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't have any international branding, so it doesn't mean anything outside of the US. So therefore, that's kind of a problem. And yeah, the simple truth is if you took Disney Plus and you made a 20th century hub and you made a Searchlight hub and an FX hub and a random Star or Hotstar, whatever kind of branding it is, it's already shown you they don't need Hulu. Hulu isn't needed. And yeah, I mean, I don't definitely doesn't look to be that way for me. I think they're just going to try and leverage it to try and get people over to it, and then maybe slowly edge. I could see them edging like 20th century into being the one. Hulu at the minute is a recognized brand. They know what it is, but that in 10 years could be completely gone. Could be completely gone as a brand. Kelly said, what are your thoughts on Apple TV coming to Prime Video as a premium add-on? I asked the same question. He said he could help revenue, subscriber growth, not hitting their target. So yeah, I mean, I think Apple TV is a really good service. We just finished watching up the 4th season of Slow Horses yesterday. I really enjoyed that film. This afternoon we watched Wolves, the new Brad Pitt and George Clooney movie. It wasn't great, but it was all right. But Apple TV Plus is a really good streaming service, but it's very much one that you don't maybe necessarily need to have consistently. I do have an Apple TV box that I've plugged into my smart TV. So we use Apple TV as our main box. And so therefore, Apple TV, I kept it because it's kind of very much like you can't really escape it. It's kind of one of those things of like, well, if I'm going to have another streaming service, Apple TV makes sense being an Apple TV user to have it because it kind of like clicks in with it all. I think as regards to putting it out on Amazon, I think again I think Apple TV has a little bit of a difficulty trying to get out to audiences that are not Apple users. So we were having this discussion with my in-laws this morning, and we were saying about like Slow Horses, and they're like, what's that on? And they're like, Apple TV, and they're like, what's that? And again, I think Apple TV is kind of like in a bit of a weird situation where they need to get out to more people as possible. But I also have a wonder as well of like whether or not they need it to get to as many people as possible, because that I could see them leaving the business. I could see them leaving that in a few years, because I think this whole thing of just blowing billions on making movies and shows might work. But is it really, they're going through some major changes. They're apparently looking at maybe dropping this whole annual refresh of their devices because people are just not doing it. I mean, I know with my phone, this is maybe at least 3 years old now. And honestly, I've got no desire to change my phone because it works the same. And if I got a new phone tomorrow, it would look the same. Everything would run the same. The pictures would be better. It would be slightly clearer, but I can't. And I think people are like changing their phones less likely. And I think, Apple are just trying to struggle with all of this. Babak says, do you think Disney will keep Halloween playlists year round or just during the holidays? So again, the Halloween one is the seasonal stream. Once we probably hit the 1st of November, it's gonna be Christmas, baby. That'll be it. And then when Christmas is over, then they'll probably move to, I don't know, Valentine's Day, love, and then I don't know what else they could do after that. Pancake Day. Maybe they do an Easter one. Maybe they do like Black History, Pride. They could do those kind of things. Summer, Independence. There's lots of different like seasonal things they could do like that. Kelly said ABC will be getting more Monday Night Football simulcasts in the second half of the season. Is this a sign that Monday Night Football will be on ABC full time in 2025? Yeah, I had a press release come through yesterday, or was it Friday, that they were moving some of the shows. They were delaying some and putting Monday Night Football on. And it's kind of like there's a double-edged sword on this. On one hand, from ABC's point of view, it will drastically increase the ratings because they're doing fantastically well. More viewership, more ratings, more money from advertising. The NFL are happy because more people can watch the sport and get into the sport, and it's not being locked away. But there's also that whole thing with ESPN of people that have got ESPN. If you're only following football, you might be thinking, well, if Monday Night Football is not is on ABC. Why do I need ESPN? So I think the fact that they did it last year, I think they're probably going to end up doing a deal where it stays on there. I think Monday Night Football on ABC is going to become a bigger and bigger thing. It's kind of weird because also the Monday Night Football for here in the UK airs on Channel 5, and we often get the ABC simulcast. When I didn't have the Zone, it was a good way of watching. I could always be like thinking, well, I can always at least watch one game a week. Maybe not always a team you want to support, but yeah, Monday Night Football obviously that big thing of having that access to it. But I think it'll be around for a while. Aaliyah says, will all the Lifetime Christmas movies appear on Disney Plus for the Christmas season and perhaps available all year round? I think the Lifetime stuff is very much like limited licensing of, because Disney technically own half of the channel, so it's not they're only really licensing bits and pieces of it. I don't think they're going to get all of them. Starbucks says, when directors and actors and production companies get first look deals with Disney, how does that work? Do they get an amount of money up front, or is Disney just calling dibs? So basically, you are right. They get paid a chunk of money up front with the idea that Disney gets first dibs. So that's, like, we're going to pay you this. Now if whatever you create, you bring it to us first. If we like it, then, we get first dibs on it. Then they can maybe go out if they don't like it. Babak says, when do you think we'll start seeing the change of ABC signature and 20th century television combining? We probably won't notice much of a difference this year. You're just going to start seeing like AB's, like the amount of shows that they create, like High Potential and Grey's Anatomy, will soon just say created by 20th Television at the end. You might not even notice it. Maybe the little logo at the beginning or at the end might change. The general public won't have a clue. Tim says, is there going to be a new Diary of the Wimpy Kid movie coming on Disney Plus this year? So the creator, I know I spoke to him as well in the past, and I did an interview with him, and he said about wanting to do all the books. They're cheap to make. We have had one the last 3 years. The fact that we are getting close to Christmas time. But previously, the last movie was announced. They have been announcing some of them in October. There could be one. If I was to announce one of these movies, I would wait until like November time to announce it. They don't need to do a lot of it. It's basically just one big animated cartoon. They don't spend a lot of money on promotion. Why? They don't need to tell us too much in advance. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was one this year. But at the same time, we've not heard anything about it, but they tend to be able to keep these ones quite quiet. Matt says, do you think Disney Plus will have a sports playlist? There will be live streams. We've got to remember in December, there will be in December, there will be the ESPN hub launching in the US. So they are going to have live streams from there in there. I don't know if they would necessarily have a stream. Maybe they do something for like the Super Bowl where they put a load of NFL related content together, or put a load of football stuff of like game plan and a load of like safety and some movies and stuff. They might do that for Super Bowl kind of thing, but I don't really see them having like a 30 for 30 stream or just having lives. They're going to want you to pay for ESPN for that. Keenan says, which streaming service do you think will be the next to have live channels? I would say Netflix on my part. I mean, I got to imagine that Netflix are at least looking at this like new thing and kind of going, we could offer it. I mean, you could see it if it works. If it improves engagement, it could help. I mean, Netflix has been very much like anti-television, anti-linear, and this kind of feels a bit like going back to television. But I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Netflix did it. Babak also asked, Hulu has some student discounts. Do you think they would add one for Disney Plus? Probably not. No, because every kid would maybe class as a student, so that might be difficult for them to do. Let's jump back in and see what we've got here. Ricardo says Hulu still has the ABC independent hub, but maybe soon it could be put together with 20th Century Hub. Maybe. The thing is with ABCs, there's still going to be some stuff like the game shows that will still be kind of under that ABC banner. Internationally, we don't get them. They only tend to license them for the US and stuff. Matt says, what do you think the 4 biggest trending services will be in 2025? I definitely think like Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus are the 3 big ones. It's hard with the 4th one because Max probably might be that one because it's available in more countries. Kelly says, I voted yes, but I want to elaborate further. Disney still owns the Hulu name and rebranded to Hulu Live TV, but the operations is sold off to another company that handles live TVs. Yeah, I mean, that could work. Barbatronic says, do you think Disney will start promoting ESPN Plus as an add-on to ESPN Plus? Definitely, but I'm not sure if that will probably start. I mean, there's not a lot of point in them starting promoting that until nearer the time. I know a lot of us we want them to get the promotion things going, but for the general public, a week or 2 is probably the most they need. Or one day, just ESPN is in there like they did with Hulu and be like, here we go, let's start the promotion. Do they need to tell people in advance? If you've got the Disney streaming bundle, it'll work. If you haven't got the streaming bundle, it will ask you to get it. So I think in some ways, just launch it, get it out there. Jonathan says, do you think Goosebumps Season 2, or why do you think Goosebumps Season 2 has been delayed until next year? It might not have been ready for this year's Halloween. They might just not have been ready, and therefore they need a few more months to finish it, because if it starts in January, there's a few extra months there they can do all the editing. Also, maybe they just wanted to stretch out that content a little bit more. I did expect it in here, but also, who's to say you have to put out like horror stuff? Maybe they felt they got too much horror stuff at this time of the year with Agatha and all that kind of thing, and wanted that one to have its own little piece. Keenan says he's had his phone for 3 years. Yep. Kelly says, that tells me that Apple TV is strictly focused on being a PVOD, similar to Fandango at home. Yeah, I mean, if you go in there, you can see all the movies and stuff coming up of like Deadpool and Wolverine's new movies to buy, also selling you access to all the other streaming services. The only one that I would be great to have like intercombine would be Netflix, because it doesn't do it. But I really like it. Keenan says the last time ABC did the Super Bowl was in 2006. Yeah, they have to keep moving it around, don't they? Matt says, will they ever do soap? Will they ever add soap operas to Disney Plus? Well, they actually just launched one on Friday. They've just launched a new Spanish soap opera. It's going to run for 70 episodes. Every day there's a new episode dropping. And this is their experiment. They're seeing if it works. It's a Spanish one. Soaps here in the UK are very different in the US. We have big ones like EastEnders, Coronation Street and Emmerdale are the really big ones, and they're on every one night, but they are prime time. They are like appointment viewing. Less so now. I think more people are watching them on demand, but they're a prime time viewing spot, and they used to get the biggest ratings in the, if you look on the equivalent of the Nielsen charts here in the UK, you will just see the soap operas. I mean, I think if I do top 10 shows in the UK ratings, let's see. All right, yeah. So the most viewed. So according to the Barb, so the last week of. Yeah, Strictly Come Dancing, Great British Bake Off, Night Super, Coronation Street, Joanne, Emmerdale. So again, like out of the top load of shows, nearly half of them are soaps. So they are very, very popular. But the soaps are very often cheaper to make, but they're very hard to launch new ones. We haven't really seen a new soap launch in a long time. In the US, most of them have been cancelled. I think we've still got General Hospital. But again, they go out in the afternoon. They're very different. A soap opera, for me, I have a very different view of a soap opera than that in the US, where they're General Hospital, which are some of them up there are really naff. And yeah, they're in the middle of the afternoon. They are very different to our type of soaps here. So I don't know if they would do it. Kate said, I believe the reason why Monday Night Football on ABC didn't have the full season simulcast this year is because it's an election year and ABC had to keep the airways free for breaking news coverage. I don't know if that's the case. I think it's more that they've struck a deal and the ratings are just so high for Monday Night Football and they want that rather than their, I think it's advertising revenue rather than the election stuff. Kenny says, I hope Max would have live streaming channels in the future too. In my opinion, every major service should have something like that, even news, sports channels. I definitely think we're starting to shift into the idea. I think they are now looking at the fact that they have to combine all these things together to make one streaming service that appeals to different markets. Sports, news, documentaries, entertainment, children's content, etc. All of these become a general hub that we want to go into and we want to use. And I think for a while, like Netflix and like Disney Plus and stuff, they were very much just like, we're only offering you drama and maybe documentaries and stuff. And now then linear still kind of had the sports and the news. And I think they've realized that they need to, that still brings in audiences and it's still important. So bringing that into Disney Plus and Hulu, and you were seeing it with Max, they're all trying it. Bobatronic says, do you think Disney will renew with the UFC? Yes. So they got an ESPN deal? Maybe. I mean, it depends. You know, they own the WWE now. Maybe they go to Netflix. I don't know if Netflix wants sport, but I think ESPN, they have been talking about the fact that they've got a good relationship. So hopefully. Matt says, I would love to see a live channel saying what's coming to theaters and Disney Plus. I mean, you could have just a trailer channel, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I personally don't really see a huge point in this stuff. It's low hanging fruit. They can make this stuff probably pretty cheap. It just reminds me of like the channels that I'd get on the Disney Cruise Line. You know, there'd be a channel rolling just with trailers. It's easy done. It's something they can put together, but do you need it? I mean, if you want to watch the trailer for something, you can just type it in and watch it. I don't know, but yeah, maybe. Matt says, do you think we'll get Family Guy and Bob's Burgers shorts? I don't think we'll get shorts. I think we're just going to get specials. I think the audience for that is a little bit more. I don't think adults want shorts because those shows are more aimed at adults. I don't think they want that. Jonathan says, do you think Paramount Plus will ever get a Disney Plus TV show that Disney doesn't want? Well, the fact that Spiderwick Chronicles, both of them didn't want it. I don't think Paramount is in a situation now where I think they're going to end up going like Sony and just licensing stuff out. I don't think Paramount Plus is going to, I could see them doing a deal with Comcast and just getting out of streaming completely. Yeah. But I don't think there's a lot of shows really left that Disney Plus have got left to sell. I think we've just seen such a decline in the amount of shows and stuff that they're creating. You know, I just know about how much I'm writing about. It's next to nothing compared to what it was a few years ago. The amount of shows and stuff, you know, it felt like I was saying something new's coming like daily, sometimes multiple a day. And we're just not getting that anymore. They have hit the brakes because the simple truth is 20th Television is creating the shows like 911, Grey's Anatomy, Abbott Elementary, High Potential, all these kind of great shows. They're all doing really well on Disney Plus's trending chart. You look at FX, they're putting out fantastic shows like Grotesque and American Sports Story. You've got National Geographic putting out a few documentaries. You've got ABC News documentaries. They seem to be really flying at the minute. They're doing really well. Disney Channel is putting out the stuff for kids. Kids aren't watching that kind of content in the same way. Disney Junior's hitting it out the park with what they're doing. You don't need all these massive, great, big, expensive dramas when you've got all that extra content. And I think they've realized that they were spending billions of dollars a year creating content to fill the void that they already had. They already had it all over here, and they were spending it over here. And they're like, well, what if we just move this over? We don't have to spend this. And I think we're getting much better shows. I think, if you're looking at like this week alone, if you're in the, you're in the US and you've got new episodes of Abbott Elementary, Dr. Odyssey, High Potential, Grey's Anatomy, 911, Grotesque, American Sports Story, Only Murders in the Building. What's one thing with all that? Hulu. That fills that void. Then that Agatha doesn't just have to. Agatha is still at the minute having to hold up Disney Plus in the US. Internationally, we've kind of moved on from that. We don't need to worry so much about like one show being it all. But they've realized that they have the content. They are creating it constantly. The linear channels and Disney Plus can coexist at the same time, and they don't have to spend billions of dollars creating new stuff. As Kelly says, the reason why peak TV is over since the studios are focused on quality as well as the Hollywood strikes being a factor since the actors and writers were over. I don't think it's so much just I think the writers' strike was the breaking point of like, right, that's it. I think it was this push for profitability where I think they just did proper analysts and just like looking at it going, we can't keep spending our way to try and beat Netflix, putting out original show after original show after original show and original movies. It is not growing. Disney Plus wasn't growing. Max wasn't growing. Peacock wasn't growing. They were spending. It made sense, if you're going to spend all of that money, just spend it on good quality stuff, and it will bring in the audiences. I think there was always this thing of Disney was trying to spread across so many different platforms, so many different channels, and everything was separate. Then actually, if you brought it all together into one big basket, you're like, why are we don't need to keep making this stuff. We got it. Kelly says that Mark Shapiro wants to continue to work with ESPN. I mean, the thing is, they're kind of probably in negotiations. They're probably going to say that way. So Suna says, do you think the Hulu standalone app will stay until the end of 2025? Yeah, I'm not expecting. I think if they do the announcement of the merger, it might take a while for Hulu to completely go. A bit like with Paramount and usually with these apps, they don't tend to just kind of do that. They probably are going to do bits and pieces. Keenan says, I bet straight streaming films have a lot to do with the strikes. I don't think it was the trouble with the strikes was like multiple issues. A lot of it was the linear market had moved and the actors want to be paid according to success, which, they were being paid for linear for one thing, and streaming, they weren't getting that same amount of money and they wanted it. The trouble is, I think they were chasing a pie which didn't exist in the same way. And they, some of the actors and stuff were looking to the past to what they used to make and thinking that streaming was going to deliver that, and it's not going to deliver that. But ultimately, the actors and stuff want better pay, better residuals, and all the rest of it. But the counter argument to that has happened that now peak TV is over. We are seeing them make at least a third to 40% less content, and that's across the whole board. And that's definitely it. As you said, COVID was one of the reasons. I don't think COVID was it definitely put the price of a lot of the movies and shows up. The trouble is the streaming explosion happened because of COVID. It was the exact opposite of everyone was locked in. Streaming exploded much faster than they ever imagined. So it was the perfect storm of you put everybody at home all at the same time as you got all these streaming services launching. Like here in the UK, we went into lockdown when it all started in the March. Disney Plus launched within 2 weeks of the lockdown. So suddenly it was able to grow massive because every kid in the country was at home and everyone was just looking for stuff. So it basically probably brought about 10 years worth of growth in a year. And so they were trying to spend on content to get there. And then obviously within a couple of years, they realized they just couldn't keep going it. But it's kind of funny, yeah, you say that, but it was definitely a fact listed as the strikes as an after effect of the pan. I think it was that kind of thing of, it was this big, just wave of just stuff that was going on. What Shapiro said was a good thing since David Zaslav made the blunder of saying we don't need the NBA. Yeah, I think that was it. Was Disney Plus supposed to release in March? Yeah, it was already planned. It was going to launch, at the end of March of 2020, because we're about 6 months behind the US. So it was always the plan to launch it, and it just happened to be that that launch date was just like 2 weeks after it. It was incredible, really. Miles says, would Pixar's decision to join the Animations Guild potentially result in decreased crunch time and reduced animators burnout? Thank you very much, Miles, for being a member. Would Pixar's decision to join? Ultimately, if you've got them, if you got the animators joining a union, the whole point of the union is to protect the workers, to make sure that they are, working less or working to the right amount of hours, to make sure they're getting paid properly, to have their breaks. So basically, from the employees' point of view, being a union member is really useful and can be very, very good. From a business point of view, unions are usually for them considered a bit of a pain in the butt because there's extra things they can't push as far. You got to look at it two ways. So if you're a business, you don't like unions. If you're an employee, you like unions. And I think that's kind of something to look at. So the idea that it will have decreased crunch time and reduce animator burnout, I would agree that it would do, because the biggest problem with crunch, you get this a lot in video games and in animation and in movies, etc., VFX, is they have a deadline. Often the time it's their own making, because they've said that we're going to release a movie here. Instead of them going, we wait till it's finished and then we set the release date, they do it the opposite way around. We're going to really have a release date and everyone's working towards it. So you're going to have that crunch. So by them becoming members, it could help reduce it. If they turn around and say, look, we ain't working more than 45 hours a week, and they've been working 50, 60, 70 hours, that is going to help reduce their burnout. It might mean they have to take on more staff, or just release dates get changed and all the rest of it. It's a very thing. As Kieran says, you have to remember that unions aren't perfect, since the union leaders can be problematic and say dumb things that can undermine the right. Yeah, unions are definitely not perfect. There's sometimes as well, if you have a leader in charge of it, and sometimes as well, it's like anything, you get a group of workers together, they will sometimes get a little bit, I've seen this happen so many times, of like one starts cribbling about, wanting more wages, and another person joins, and it becomes like everyone gets in it. It's your own like little echo chamber, and it can be very difficult. But ultimately, the main core thing really from a union is to protect the employees. They're there for the employees, not for the company. And there's good and bad things to it. There's pros and cons to both. But I would definitely say if you are in a business where there is a union, it's usually a good idea to at least look into it and decide yourself from it. You have to pay usually for it, but they can be really useful. But as an employer, you don't like them. Here we go. Derek says, thank you so much for your super chat, Derek. That is fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Which free streaming service do you think is the next to get the chop now that Crackle and Chicken Soup of the Soul is gone? What do I think? I think this is difficult because there's so many of them. And also as well, you've got different ones in different countries. And I might not, it's the little ones that I'm maybe not, so I might not be aware of. But I do think, I think like all of these platforms, there is a problem fundamentally with trying to get enough audience and enough advertising to make them profitable. So they have to they have to license the content. So they have to find someone to buy that show's from. And they also have to buy shows that are good enough to encourage people to watch it. No point just buying a load of content which nobody is interested in, because that's not going to bring in customers and viewers. That's not going to bring in revenue. No point having, a load of stuff in there. Now, I know it's free is free. So there's always going to be a market for a free service. I think, it's kind of a weird thing, really, of probably the ones that's probably going to go are the ones that I'm maybe not aware of. Again, free services are very, like here in the UK, there are free ones. I don't tend to use them. I think probably the one that's probably most likely to go will be Freevee, the Amazon one. Amazon seem to be like imming and ahhing. I think they're just going to fold that into Amazon Prime and forget all of that kind of stuff. I just don't. I think this whole like rush to fast is a little bit of, it might work for now, and Tubi's had a big success, But if all those studios start pulling its content or realizing that they want to have their own bit of the pie, but then I kind of look at it and like, if you can get like all these, if you can get like Netflix and stuff for like $5, $10 a month, whatever, of ads, is that content much better than what's on Tubi? I know there's free. You're always going to have an audience that wants free content, but ultimately you get what you pay for. And I'm not entirely sure. And I also think this is another problem. If Tubi or some of the other ones start getting too big, you'll start seeing the other studios start pulling back on supporting them because they're worried about them, because that's the big problem. So like if like Disney are licensing a few films to Tubi and stuff, if Tubi starts getting too big for them and starts becoming a proper competitor, they might go, yep, you're our competitors now, we're not interested. Again, thank you so much for that support, Eric. That does mean a lot. Miles says, since Disney Snow White is releasing on March 21st next year, do you think the film could premiere at the Dublin Film Festival, which is going on from February the 20th to March the 2nd? Maybe. I think the problem with this movie is how much they are going to want to promote it. Now, I have a feeling that Snow White will get a premiere the week of the movie coming out at the El Capitan Theatre in Hollywood, which Disney owns, and that'll be it. They're not going to spend any more money than necessary on this film. I think we're going to see them literally just kind of go, right. I honestly think they're just going to literally, I think they are just going to spend as little amount as possible. The only reason it would go at a film festival is if they think if it's really, really good and they want to try and get the word of mouth out. I just think that this movie it's just damaged goods already, and no matter what they do, they're going to struggle. So I think it's going to have a single one. Let's see. We did that one from Jonathan. Basil says, do you think Disney needs to communicate better with their subscribers, not only with the latest round of removals, but also with upcoming releases to Disney Plus? So the big question here is like, how do they communicate to you? So they have a few different options. So first off, they can email you. So I get an email regularly from Disney Plus, from my Disney Plus account, and they will kind of be like, here's some of the latest releases. And that is one way of making direct contact with me as a subscriber. No, newsletters, etc. like that. Makes perfect sense. They have social media, so they will put it out on social media. I do think they could do better. I think one of the big problems for me is the international stream announcements are awful. The UK types of announcements at the minute, we get so little, so much stuff just arrives. The other day we had like 200 things arriving in the UK. Didn't know about like any of them. And there'll be new shows that start and we don't even know they're starting, and it's pretty bad. I do think they've got too many social media outlets. I think they need to consolidate them a little bit. They've got too many, and I also think this is the same thing as well. Just get it out there on like the main one. So if it's coming out on Disney Plus or it comes out globally, I think they need to be a bit more better with that. Removals, either have a what's leaving soon page within the app, that should be there, or even just an expiry date telling you that that should be default, especially since the introduction of Hulu on Disney Plus. When it was just Disney Plus, and they weren't removing anything, you didn't really need to. If it was like one or two things a month, it wasn't really a huge deal. But with Hulu on Disney Plus, they are removing 20 to 30 movies every month. I think there should be an expiry thing telling you that stuff is leaving. I think that's definitely something they should be doing. Also, in terms of like communication, I think there's some things they could do better within the app. I think highlight better when something's new. Like when there's a new episode of Grey's Anatomy, it should like say there's a new episode rather than the way they got it at the minute. But I think as regards to like communication, it's very tricky for them to do so. There's only so you're either in the app or you're on social media, or they've got a contact, and they have to be wary. They can't like email you too much. There's no point spending money on advertising on shows to get you to watch something that you're already a subscriber to. The point of ads is to get new subscribers. So you could argue that those ads also help keep you engaged. If you see an advert like tonight, we were watching Married at First Sight, and there was an ad that came on Channel 4's video on demand platform for Disney Plus for Rivals. Watched which is a good series, comes out next week. So there was an actual ad for Rivals. So they do those kind of things. Keenan says DirecTV with the first cable company to provide a fast streams. Oh yeah, we did that one. So we've done all of the pre-done questions. So now we're just in the live one. If you've got any more questions, feel free to put them in. If not, we'll kind of close on this one out. Kelly's fine with it being a cute pre-take one since you're having your birthday and you're going to be doing stuff. No worries. Hope you have a good one. Amazon Freeview is going to merge with Prime Video app. I don't know if that's been official yet. I know there's been a lot of talk of it, but a lot of it is rumors. I don't think there's anything. There's been lots of denials of it, but they've never actually officially confirmed that that's actually happening yet. Again, there's just so many of these different platforms are trying to launch at the minute. Killian says my hometown has a film festival every year, but independent. I think a lot of towns and cities have independent movie things. The big problem really is how big a city or town it is that you're in. If you live in New York City or Toronto or London, then great, you can generally get bigger ones. But if if you're in Plymouth or Sheffield or something like that, you might not quite get the same amount of movies turning up. Miles says, are you looking forward to the future of Disney live action under David Greenwood and 20th Century? He's the guy from Searchlight, isn't it? I'm hopeful that we start seeing more original content, a little bit more mixed in. I do like the fact that maybe 20th Century Studios should go back to making like movies which they used to make. We don't see a lot of them anymore. It's like today, I just watched Wolves. Like that was fine. It was a mid-level movie. Watched like The Union on Netflix. Those kind of like action movies, things are those kind of movies that I used to like. They just don't seem to make them very much anymore, and they're not necessarily great for theatrical. But I don't know. It could be great to kind of have some more original movies from 20th century where they can take a risk a little bit, or comedies, etc. Keenan says, "I am from a small town." Cool. Right. If there's any more last minute questions, feel free to pop them in. Kelly says he's 45 minutes from New York City. I could attend it, but I've chosen to not compelling. I think the thing is with these film festivals is it depends on like what movies you want to watch. I think if I was like 45 minutes from London, because for me it's at least 3 to 4 hours to get to London. So for when I've gone up for like the London Film Festival, I have to make it's a big, it's 3 hours on a train or 3 hours driving or an hour flight. So that's not really convenient. So if you're 45 minutes away and you can just catch you can drive in or you can. I would, if I was if I was 45 minutes from the centre of London, I would go to a lot more stuff like that. It's just for me, it's cost effective. It's just not viable to do so. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do try and get up there whenever I can, but it has to be for something really good to make it worth it. That's definitely a thing. Miles says, should Disney introduce a BBFC IC ARF age certificate for its film and TV show? Well, they already rate all their movies and shows. So if you look on any of their shows or movies, they will have a rating on it that they're self put in. I think as far as putting in ratings from other countries, from different certifications and stuff, I think they pretty much use those anyway. I don't think they changed them too much. Like the rating here in the UK is a little bit different than in the US. I know the rating in Australia, it will still come up with MA for mature and things like that. So I'm just looking here. So I think most of the time it just they know what they've got with the BF, with that rating system, and they go around that. Right. On that note, guys, thank you very much for all of your questions. Big thank you to everyone in the live chat. So Caled, Miles, Keenan, Bubba Trolling, Aaliyah. I've also got in here Derek. Thank you for your super chat. So Sooner, Matt, big thank you, Jonathan, everyone, Ricardo, all of you, thank you so much. So again, next week's Q&A will be pre-recorded because I'm going to be at the NFL London game. So I'll be up there for that one there. So if you're a Patreon or YouTube channel member, keep a lookout for a post later this week asking for questions and I'll pop that up. That'll go at the same time, 7:00 UK time on Sundays. I'll pre-record it and it'll go out then. But on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Laters.